5 human remains found.
We hear the headlines.
To identify some skeletal remains.
Deputies are investigating a suspicious death.
Who the remains belong to could become a mystery. That's where the Center for Human Identification at the University of North Texas Health Science Center steps in.
That each case represents a family who's waiting for answers.
The lab receives remains from all over the state and country, working with law enforcement agencies free of charge.
One of the things that we have expertise in is dealing with bones or skeletal remains.
From bones to teeth, the fortunate thing about DNA,
it's in every tissue of our body.
This lab is also one of the very few specializing in mitochondrial DNA a mother passes down to her children, and the only type of DNA they may be able to get from skeletal remains. Since there's a lot of heat in Texas where remains are left exposed, nuclear DNA, which is made up of both parents, may not be picked up. And once the human remains are analyzed here at the University of North Texas Health Science Center, they're sent back to their respective counties. The lab processes anywhere between 650 to 1,000 skeletal remain samples per year. The samples are then put into an FBI database known as CODIS, Combined DNA Index System. Peter says it's vital families of missing loved ones submit their DNA to law enforcement so they can do a comparison.
They can come forward and hopefully get resolution.
Recently, the lab helped solve a nearly 40-year-old mystery, identifying a victim of a 1970 serial killer in Chicago, John Wayne Gacy, who performed at children's parties as a clown. Gacy was convicted of killing 33 people and executed in '94. 6 years ago, the lab started working with police in Illinois and developed DNA profiles from unidentified Gacy victims. Recently, law enforcement found a family with a loved one that fit the profile of a Gacy victim.
They collected those samples and sent them into us, and we processed them as soon as we could.
Just last month, 4 decades later, 16-year-old James Hackison was identified as one of Gacy's victims. Since the Center for Human Identification's inception nearly 15 years ago, more than 2,000 sets of remains have been identified. Investigators working every day to make sure those John and Jane Does out there reclaim their real names. Melissa Vega, News 4, San Antonio.